Here are 10 whiskeys you must try if you are a beginner. What's up, everybody? It's the Bourbon Guy, and welcome back to my channel. Gonna jump right into it. 10 different whiskeys that I think you need to try if you're a beginner. Really, no matter where you are in your whiskey journey, these should be bottles that you have at least tried. I think when you talk about building a collection or trying different whiskeys, whatever it is, wherever you're at in your journey, it can be overwhelming. There are so many whiskeys, and I'm speaking specifically of American whiskey, but there's so many different things to try in terms of the world in general. We're gonna narrow that down just a little bit today. These whiskeys on this list are, there's a wide range. There's differing types, different distilleries, different regions, things like that. And these whiskeys, I think, will get you started on the right path. And I think from here, you can kind of expand out and try different things. But we're going to start with these 10. All right, number 1, Wild Turkey 101. This is the one that we all remember from college or when we were younger. The vision that we have of Wild Turkey 101, or maybe what we remember of it, or maybe don't remember. This is one that I think you need to go back to. Your palate may be a little bit more developed, or you're starting to really kind of get into whiskey, and it's no longer just about not tasting things. You're trying to expand your palate a little bit. I think Wild Turkey 101 is a great bottle to have in your collection to start building or start trying as you begin your whiskey journey and go from here. Number 2, Four Roses Single Barrel. Now this one is actually a barrel strength store pick, but I really think that just the 100 proof, the regular, I think it's around $40. That Four Roses Single Barrel that looks just like this bottle, that's the one I'm speaking of, and that's the one that I think is a great place to start. I think each of these whiskeys are different in their own right, but I think that Four Roses Single Barrel is a perfect place to start because it's one that a lot of people just try it and end up falling in love with bourbon and wanting to learn more about it and try different things. That has been a gateway for so many people, and I think that is the reason why that should be on this list. All right, number 3, Maker's Mark 46. Now this one is one that same type of concept as the Wild Turkey 101. A lot of us are familiar with Maker's Mark in general. You know, when people come up to me and they say, what's a bourbon I should try? And I ask them, what have you had? What do you enjoy? And a lot of the times people will say, oh, I've had Maker's Mark. So the next logical step for me is Maker's 46. Now, without boring you and putting into the whole history lesson over Maker's Mark, 46 basically is just where they took different oak staves and finished the regular Maker's Mark, right? So it gives it a different taste profile than your traditional Maker's Mark and enhances it in a way that I truly think is worth it. This bottle is one that I like just about for any occasion. It's very versatile. The fact that you can make cocktails or try it and eat, whatever the case, it doesn't matter what the occasion is. This bottle seems to land every single time, and it's always going to be in my collection, regardless, beginner or not. But this is one that I recommend very frequently. All right, number 4, Woodford Double Oak. Now this one, same concept. We're not going that far off the path. As a beginner, as somebody that maybe has had regular Woodford Reserve, Double Oak is another logical step in the right direction, in my opinion. I think this will actually, it is going to be a lot of oakier. It is a double oaked product. It was finished, I guess, matured in one barrel and then finished in another barrel. 2 different barrels, it's going to give you a lot of oak. This will be able to tell you pretty quickly whether you like that or not. If you like that, then you kind of know which direction to go. Maybe Old Forester 1910 after you try this. If you don't like it, then you know to stay away from those types of products. All right, number 5, Elijah Craig. This is just the regular small batch, the 94 proof. I know that a lot of people are interested in the toasted, and it's my wife's favorite bourbon actually right now, it seems like. I don't mind it. Some people don't like it. I actually enjoy Elijah Craig toasted as well. I think just for the availability, the mass availability that is Elijah Craig, this is like in Costco here, this is in Target, this is in CVS here. I mean, this literally is everywhere. And if I'm in a place where there's only like a handful of whiskeys to even choose from, this is probably sitting on the shelf, and this is probably going to be the one that I would grab. But when somebody comes to me and just says maybe they haven't had bourbon at all, or maybe some very basic things, a lot of times this is the one I'm going to recommend. All right, number 6, Knob Creek. Now, I actually want the 9-year. Knob Creek 9-year is the one I'm thinking of here. A lot of people really enjoy that bottle. This particular one is actually a store pick. It's 120 proof, and it is a single barrel as well, but it's similar So Knob Creek in general, I think is good to try for any beginner, even though it's not necessarily my favorite whiskey. This particular version of Knob Creek is my favorite. Let's be clear. This one's like a 14 or 15-year-old 120 proof pick from back in the day. Just the regular Knob Creek 9, I think is good. I think it does get, in my opinion, it's very, very hyped up, and that's just, people love it. And even though it's not one of my favorites, it's not one of the first ones I really think of in terms of myself. When I'm talking to other people suggesting bottles to beginners, it comes up every time, just because if so many other people enjoy it that much, then I have to keep that in mind when I'm suggesting whiskey to other people. So Knob Creek 9-year is one you might need to try. All right, number 7, Michter's US1 Bourbon. Very fancy way of just Michter's Bourbon. Michter's product, this is another Kentucky bourbon. You know, you're not going to stray away from the path that far or anything like that. This is straight bourbon from Kentucky. So it is what it is. But I do think that Michter's products in general, I just am a fan of them all. A lot of people like the sour mash. The American whiskey I think is very good. The rye is surprisingly good. I don't know why I didn't think the rye would be as good back when I first had it, but it is. And so, to me, at least. But the Michter's Bourbon is one that I think gets overlooked. I think a lot of people talk about Buffalo Trace and Eagle Rare, and we go after all these different things. And I hear Knob Creek in the mix a lot when it comes to beginners and people kind of getting into whiskey. I don't hear Michter's as often, and I really think it should be in that category, especially to those that are new to whiskey overall. All right, number 8, Heaven Hill Bottled and Bond. This one is a product that was redone. They changed it from a 6-year age stated to a 7-year age stated product. Price bumped up, the packaging looks a lot nicer. In the initial shift, I think this was one that met some resistance, but I think over time people have forgotten about it, I think, and just still love it. I think in my area I've seen this around $50 or so. So if you're somebody that's like relatively new to bourbon and you're trying different things, but maybe you don't want to necessarily spend $20 on a Wild Turkey 101, you want something that you're going to pay a little bit more for, something that feels a little classier, I would say Heaven Hill Bottled and Bond is a perfect place to go, because you can kind of figure out really quickly, really when you try any of this list, which whiskeys are for you in terms of like distillery. So if you enjoy this, you might want to branch out and try other Heaven Hill products. Beginner or not, still a fantastic bottle. But if I was recommending something to somebody that pay a little bit more, I would recommend this one. All right, number 9, Old Forester 100. Again, trying different distilleries is the name of the game when you're starting out with whiskey. And to me, there's not really that much of a difference between the 86 proof and the 100 proof. I do feel like drinkability is very similar. Sometimes I recommend the lower proof product just because it's less of a bite. It's going to be easier for people to drink. They're going to think it's more smooth, whatever the case is. Because these two are so close in how they drink, I just think that that little extra to the 100 proof is going to bring a little bit more flavor. Price-wise, I think the difference is only a couple bucks or something like that. The Old Forester 100 proof, I think, is good enough to get you that flavor that you need to build your palate. It's not going to be overly complex or anything like that, but it's going to give you a little bit something different, and we can go from there. If you enjoy this one, you know you can go to an Old Forester 1920, 1910, their Whiskey Row series, and try different products from them. All right, number 10, Jack Daniel's Single Barrel. Now this one is actually a store pick from Rural Inn, which is a very famous liquor store here in Indianapolis. Going to stay in the Brown-Forman family. Brown-Forman actually owns Old Forester and Jack Daniel's brands, so we're kind of staying in the same realm, but we're going in a whole different direction because of Tennessee whiskey. A lot of people ask, is Jack Daniel's a bourbon? That's a whole separate video. Regardless of what you call it, the fact that Jack Daniel's itself, for me as a brand, I think of Old No. 7, the black label, the traditional bottle that I had when I was younger. This is nothing like that experience for me. I've told the story before, but there was a time where Jack Daniel's, there was like a sales rep that I talked with, and they asked me, to try different things, and I said, I'm not a fan of Jack Daniel's at all. And they said, have you tried anything other than Old No. 7? And I said, no, I haven't. And they let me try this product along with others, and every single thing else that I tried that day, I loved, absolutely loved it. Not just like could tolerate it, not just thought it was okay. I loved it. I enjoyed all of their products that they had me try that day. And I think if people can get past the name and what their thought is or perception is of that brand and try other products from them, you will start to fall in love with Jack Daniel's potentially. And I know for me, I did. And then I wanted to learn more. I knew all the history there, the town. There's some great documentaries on Jack Daniel's. It's really, really cool of a brand to kind of deep dive into. And there's a lot more to go from here. These are 10 bottles that I think as a beginner, when you're getting into whiskey and you're overwhelmed with all these different things, I think start with these 10. If you start here, kind of maneuver through, figure out what you like, what you don't like. I think that'll kind of give you a good direction as to where to go from here. That's my list. If you have any thoughts or whiskeys that you think should be on a list, should have been here that I missed, let me know in the comments. And as always, I appreciate you tuning in, and I will see you in the next one. Cheers.